So moving forward from this meditation last week about absorbing and integrating and gathering and giving our bodies, all of our bodies, physical body, emotional body, mental body, and spiritual bodies, a moment of rest in which to absorb the information, absorb the energy transmissions and the frequencies that we're experiencing, and to integrate them into our beings. I mean, it was a lovely meditation. It was intended to be fairly restful, without any new transmissions, but I discovered that we can't actually escape transmissions in this center. Every meditation is a transmission of energy in order to support the work that we're doing. But after that meditation, I was still feeling frazzled and crazy, and then the solar eclipse happened. And then yesterday was 20 months since Paddy died. And I heard myself saying to Pascal that there is a part of me that is alive and flowing and making changes and living fully. And you all know I've been in this crazy paint the house red mode, and replenishing and renovating and restoring and recycling and remembering and all of the rewords. I'm doing all of that, and I'm actually quite enjoying all of that. And then there is a part of me that feels dead. Not that it died with Paddy, but that it's dead. That it is not fully present with all of this. And that given the choice between the two, I think I would go with the dead part. Because the dead part was just not part of the frenzy and not part of the craziness. And while the dead part is experiencing grief and sorrow and burdensomeness, it also feels on a completely different level like a lighter part of me. So after I heard myself have this whole discussion, I thought I must actually sit with this. So for those of you who are too busy to meditate, you actually have to just sit and get your bodies into the position, firstly, to meditate. And regardless of how busy the universe tells you you are supposed to be, remember that that is not the universe talking. That's your head talking. The universe does not know about busy. It is constantly at work, but it is never busy. It is always in a perpetual pace with divine timing. So for those of you who are too busy for a life and too busy for a spiritual life, best you start getting a life. How many times have I said that in this group now? About 100? Yeah. If we've got 500 meditations, I've said that at least 100 times. So back to the story. So just sitting with this, there were a couple of things that I began to feel, and that the first thing that came up for me was that meditation last week where we were absorbing and reintegrating was a beginning. It was actually a beginning, because what I felt was that my physical body absorbs and reintegrates or comes to terms with things at one pace. And it's actually slower, than my spiritual body. My spiritual body gets it, it grasps it, goes, and it moves forward, and it's like all hunky-dory. My mind, on the other hand, my mental body, my consciousness of being an intellectual, analytical, logical being is at a totally different pace. And my emotional body, which keeps pace with my spiritual body, intuitively, innately, creatively works with my spiritual body, is still slower. So each of these bodies, and remember the auric field has at least 3 of each of those bodies, is working at a different pace. My outermost spiritual body is working at one light frequency, while my innermost spiritual body is working at another. And that just really complicates matters. So for the purposes of today's meditation, we're just staying with the 4 bodies. And one of the things that we did in last week's meditation was that we got centered and we got grounded in order to make sure that the process of integration, defragmentation, the process of absorption would be at the same pace, in a rhythm or in harmony with the 4 bodies, that all 4 bodies would work as a team. It doesn't necessarily happen that way. For myself, I know it didn't happen that way. So I had to stop and examine it. And one of the things I found was that, and I'm using Paddy as a good example because you all know Paddy well, and you know the relationship well, is that when Paddy died, now you're telling me, are you sure you're not dead? Like, make up your mind. Okay, not dead. Paddy says, I'm not dead, Granny. I'm not dead. All right, here, Granny. Why are you saying I'm dead? You're not dead. Okay. So, when Paddy didn't die, now I'm like so confused. Okay, when Paddy's body died, let's get accurate. When Paddy's body died, oh, we killed it. Now we're really getting accurate. Can we not do that? Okay, when I killed Paddy's body, in order to liberate Paddy from that body, are we now? Okay, now we're accurate. My different bodies responded to that event differently. And what intrigues me about this is that each of my bodies remembers it differently. My physical body remembers it in one way. I mean, I have all of the memories of my physical life with Paddy, and the grief and the joy and the sadness and the irritation. Yes, I used to get irritated with you. Can you stop interrupting? Okay. That irritation. See? So the physical body has a range of this lifetime experiences. And then my emotional body has all of the emotions, all of the ramifications of that, all of the connectivity of how our relationship with each other would interact with all other relationships. So it has a different set of information at a different frequency from the memories that are housed in my physical body, housed in my organs. I mean, when I grieve Paddy, I feel an actual physical pain in my heart center. And that flows outward, and I can feel it in my chakras, but not as a physical pain. So I know that there is a different set of information, a different set of memories that I have to respect and honor at that level. And then there's a different set that is the mind of me. Now, I can come up with Paddy stories with almost any word you give me. I'll be able to give you a Paddy story. And it feels like she lived here forever instead of just 12 years. So the consciousness of me that races around in the universe and has physical plane experiencing, emotional plane experiencing, spiritual plane experiencing, past life experiencing, all of those experiences that come together, the way Paddy related to other people, which come with their own stories. So all of those experiences that sit in the consciousness of who I am. And then there's my consciousness of who Paddy is as a teacher and a master, which is a whole other level of experiencing, and all of the learning that I did with that. So here I am, sitting in my consciousness as a mind, as a knowing, as a feeling, as an intuitive experiencing, grieving the loss of a teacher and a stabilizer, and the loss of love in a particular frequency and way, and then grieving the loss of my companion, my dog, the scheduler, my clock, the person who reminded me to eat. There are all of these names and identities that go to that. And then my spiritual body has a totally different understanding of this and a deep and abiding sorrow that goes with it. Now you would think that the spiritual body that understands death, that understands the liberation and the freedom and the becoming of a soul through death, wouldn't sorrow. But like all of the bodies of self, the spiritual body sorrows for the loss that self is experiencing, even while self might celebrate the liberation of the other. So there is a sorrow in that, in terms of my spiritual body misses that type of connectedness, that telepathic communication, that comfort, that understanding, that mutual knowing that I share with nobody else on the planet. Or off the planet, as Paddy likes to say. So, when I stop and I look at how my 4 bodies have effectively reacted and responded differently, at different levels, at different frequencies, with different reasons, and at a different pace, I realize that my physical body is going to grieve the longest. For as long as I am in this physical body, on this planet, living this illusion, this physical body is going to grieve, be in sorrow at the loss of Paddy's body. Can I stop saying that? That just sounds weird now. You get it, right? What I mean by, okay. Because obviously she's standing right here and I haven't lost Paddy in spirit. So you would think I would grieve less. But my physical body has difficulty with not grieving what was so essentially a physical experience. So although my mind and my spiritual body goes into, but Paddy's fine, you're fine, you can talk to her, she pitches up, she still nags, all of the relating is still there. But my physical body that holds the memories, that is learning at a different rate through the rest of me, that is absorbing and integrating and defragmenting at a different rate to the rest of me, is still sorrowing at a level that my spiritual body isn't. Do you get that? Yeah. Now, we talk about us being this dynamic system of 308 chakras. We've just done that talk. And all 308 chakras are working at different frequencies. Back and front for the ones that have a back and front. In their communications with each other, they impact on the frequency. In exactly the same way, the bodies work at different frequencies. Now the stubbornness, peanut gallery, the stubbornness of the physical body, its intention or desire to survive anything is there. We know that it's there. We use it all the time. So if something happens, we can get on with it. We can absorb whatever's happened and move forward. Even if we're just going through the motions for a short time, we will move forward. But I want you to stop for a moment and imagine that when something happens, and for now let's just take it something negative, right? Something traumatizing. When something traumatizing happens, something traumatic happens, I want you to imagine that somebody has dealt your physical body a glancing blow. So you can feel that there is an impact, that something has hit you, but of course there isn't a physical impact, so it feels like it's glancing off you. As if I have swung a club at you and it's nicked you in the shoulder and it's moved on. So there is an impact that you don't quite register immediately. The spiritual body gets it. Immediately, either soul knows what it is, and either soul is able to withstand it. So the blow is absorbed. But the mental body, the emotional body, and the physical body, the etheric field, must still absorb it. It must still integrate it, or defragment, or understand it, make sense of it, create meaning out of it. And so it takes some people years to recover from any kind of trauma. When it passes from the spiritual body through into the mental body, now this is where our thinking and our conditioning takes hold. Because as it's passing through that, immediately the mental body is going to make decisions about it. It's going to make judgments about it. It's going to categorize it and file it and decide that you should be able to move on regardless. That you should be able to get over it. That you should be able to get on with your usual life. And the most obvious things that you should grieve and be joyful simultaneously does not occur to the mental body, because it is focused on moving forward, keeping you in the rat race, running on this hamster wheel, getting through the traffic. And of course, however it decides, it impacts on your emotional body in addition to the blow itself. So your mind has decided how your emotional body should react to this. While, of course, your emotional body is already reacting to it. So those of us who have experienced grief, the depth of grief, we know that it comes up at you out of the blue. It can catch you mid-sentence in the middle of a party. It can catch you anywhere. That's your spiritual and your emotional body responding to its experience of loss. While the mind has decided that the body should get on with it anyway. We don't even know what the memory is that comes to us, and that flabbergasts me, because I have millions of memories of Paddy. You know, for somebody who was only here for 12 years, she managed to do a hell of a lot of living. And bum lifting. No, I was bum lifting. You were living. I was bum lifting, she was living. So I have lots of memories of bum lifting so that she could get about. See, favorite memory. But I don't even know what memory it is that creates that sudden vulnerability, that sudden feeling of an overwhelming grief that comes from my spiritual body and my emotional body simultaneously. It seems to attack my mental body all at once, and my mental body crumbles in the face of it, and I go completely into feel mode. And it doesn't make sense to the people outside of me, because really, I'm okay, right? Right? Come, nod now. Nod. You're supposed to agree that I'm okay. Seriously. Okay. I'm okay. You're okay. We're all okay. This is the whole thing. We're generally so good at being okay that we absorb the blow without recognizing that we've absorbed it, without stopping to breathe our way through it, without allowing ourselves, all aspects of ourselves, a moment to clarify it or to heal it, to shift it into a space where we understand it better and we can use it better or release it immediately. We're constantly taking blows. Over and above what we recognize to be traumatizing, there are a whole range of other things that are exceptionally traumatic in the world, and we think they are normal. Open the newspapers, right? Constantly traumatizing information. So, when I was sitting with this, I deliberately opened Facebook to test this. Because I noticed, when I'm in grief about Paddy, you can put anything in front of me and I will get mad or get mad. You know, I'll get emotionally mad or I'll get angry with the world and I'll want to fix it. It's like one or the other, because really, what's the point of grief? I can't sit around crying all day, right? See, rational brain, we're not allowed to do that. Take a day off, stay home, sob your heart out, grieve to your heart's content, honor it completely, and then you get up and you must get on with it. We know that this is the way life works. So I got onto Facebook, and the first thing I saw was this completely horrible thing about a man who is being sentenced for 26 years for cruelty to dogs. And there's a part of me going hip hip hooray, and then there's a part of me that just wants to kill him. I don't, and I want him to be in prison for the rest of his life, blah, blah, blah. So my Kali revenge mode came to the fore. And it was such an over-the-top emotional reaction to this whole thing. You would think that he had harmed Paddy. This is how bad it was. So I paid attention. I stopped and I sat with it and I paid attention. Firstly, my entire system is already on high alert. It's already frenzied. It's already in that mode where it's expecting another blow. That's what happens when we are traumatized. Our systems get into high alert. They're designed to keep us safe. Obviously, they're going to get into high alert. And if we are unaware of high alert space, because we are not recognizing the blow, we are just taking it and moving on and doing other things, we open ourselves to other traumas, to other things that speak as loudly as if to say to you, stop, wake up. Here's a second trauma to recognize the first one. And here's a third trauma because you skipped after the second one too. How many traumas does it take before you stop and pay attention to all the blows? That is a serious question, people. Stop. Think about this. Day in and day out, how many blows are you absorbing and getting on with it? Because if you're taking on 10, 20, 30 a day, then you should be sitting for at least an hour of meditation twice a day, thrice a day. Every 10 blows, 1 hour of meditation, 1 hour of resting, harmonizing, centering, grounding, gathering, holding your own space. It was very traumatic. So when all of these things are exceptionally traumatic for all of us, we must stop and we must recognize that while very little remains shocking in the world, really, there's very little that shocks us anymore. Intellectually, rationally, there is very little that shocks us anymore. We talk about living in a society where we have been so overwhelmed by so much shit that happens that we've numbed out. And the truth is that we're not numb. We might have created armors around ourselves in order to protect ourselves from all this crap that's going down. But we are not numb. We have a range of scientists talking about people who are highly efficient and deeply depressed at the same time. Is that not a clear indication that everybody is having all of these blows rained on them, but they're not working through them? They're just internalizing them, absorbing them, and each of the bodies is absorbing them at different times. So we become more highly efficient, more highly effective in the world, on the surface, in the doing of things, but the internal self, that internal dialogue, the who we are inside out, is dead, depressed, suppressed, hidden, unexpressed, unseen, unheard. So the part of me that died when Paddy died had to come alive by choice. I had to choose it. And just be very clear, it's got none of the normal grief stuff. You know, like I'm guilty of that I'm alive and she's dead, and like, you know, she's not dead. It's none of that stuff. It's just a part of me that stopped, that just stopped and looks at the world and thinks, why are you all so happily going on normally as abnormal when the world has ended? And that part of me that recognizes that a world ended and that I needed to move forward from that. So part of me moved forward and part of me stayed right there with the world has ended. The world as Paddy knew it, or was experiencing it in her body, ended. That world ended. Now she is experiencing the world out of her body. The world as I knew it, experiencing it with Paddy in her body, ended. Now I am experiencing it with Paddy out of her body. My brain boggles around that one still. It's so real for the rest of me, and my brain just goes into, oh my God, it can't deal. It can't deal. It's like, nah, what is going on with you? But that's the brain. It's only 50 or so years old, you know. I think it was born half asleep. It can't deal with it because it wants to fix things down. It wants to be logical. It wants things to be well understood. It wants to know that if I say my physical body is working at this frequency and this pace with this vibration, it wants me to explain all three terms before I even go to how my emotional body is doing. It wants to know that if my physical body is working at pitter-patter, then my emotional body is going to work at pitter-patter too. You know, it wants the same rhythm. It wants everything to be neat and tidy. The world is not neat and tidy. The universe is not neat and tidy. Life is a burdensome business. Make no mistake about it. It is a burdensome business. And if you get out alive, kill yourself. Because you're not meant to get out alive. Your get out of jail free card is death. That's what this is about. So the part of us that gets stuck, especially when it comes to grieving through a loss in death, especially that part, because that world ends, that part of us is also afraid of our own death. And that would be a glancing blow that you cannot just absorb and move on. That would be what we call a life-changing blow, right? Yeah, life-changing. But we are so accustomed, so conditioned to not making the energy available. Please note, I said not making the energy available. Because we know about the people who make time to grieve. You know? I listen to all of the spiritual claptrap. You must make time to grieve. So they take time. And what do? Anything but grieve. Anything but pay attention to how they feel inside. Most people don't even know how to feel what they're feeling inside. Most people don't even know how to stop and pay attention to what they're feeling inside out. So today's meditation, I want you to be able to picture not just yourself standing as a central being in your auric field. Because I think we need to just clarify this a little. I, the soul, drives this physical body and sets a pace for it. There is a pace, you know. We all hear our own little drummer boy. We have a pace. But when I say to ordinary people, you know, I, the soul, drives the physical body. It is a vehicle that you are using this lifetime. Use it well. They cannot picture how does I, the soul, fit into this physical body. And then I say, but you have 12 bodies of the auric field. Now they think they live outside the physical body. So where does the soul live? Don't you like it? Where does the soul live? When I say I, the soul, drives this physical body, I, the soul, inhabits this physical body. What am I talking about? Whenever you've had to sense, feel, imagine, think, envision, what were you doing? Where was your soul? Where was I, the soul, getting grounded and getting centered and all of those things with the physical body?
Inside you.
No. It is neither. It is neither inside you nor outside you. It is both. I, the soul, is beyond duality. The only reason we say, go to your inner dialogue, go to your inner voice, is because we're talking about the inspired you. Inspired, inside, inner. That stuff that is not available on the surface out loud for everybody else to hear. That's why it's inner. But I, the soul, am inside and outside. This whole auric field embraces my entire physical body. My chakras flow from the center of my auric field, not the center of my body. When people are beside themselves, literally their auric fields are standing beside them, I, the soul, am still connected to the physical body that's running around like a bloody zombie, but the soul self is accompanying it. It is beside itself. So when you're picturing I, the soul, you have to see that entire egg-shaped being that is embracing a physical body that is contained within it, and that is in flow with it. And flow is the only word I can find to use it, because everything that's happening inside, all of the organs, the entire structure of the physical body is subject to the flow, the impact of all of the energy body systems. So when we do healing and we say your chakras are ruling that organ and that organ and that organ, that's what we're talking about. If we take away your auric field and we take away all of your chakras, you've got a dead body. Simple. The prana, the life force that we talk about, that you are breathing in with every breath you breathe in, is flowing into your auric field. You are not breathing only with your nostrils. Using your nostrils is a way of regulating your breathing and disciplining your mind. But the prana, the life force, is you inhaling, breathing with an entire auric field. So I, the soul, is not some small, limited, got smaller being that got shoved into a physical body and is now cramped inside. Okay. So, when we have the glancing blows to our auric field, remember this auric field is present because you have a physical vehicle called your physical body. And they are centered in flow with that physical body. They are designed to preserve it. They are designed to maintain it, because you require this vehicle in order to be present here in the presence. Whether you're driving a Ferrari or a VW makes no difference whatsoever. The design is the same. The engine under the hood is the same. How much you rev it and how little you rev it is up to you. How much you take care of it, how many washes it gets, is up to you. How you take care of this vehicle is up to you. But if you ding it in an accident, best you be a really good panel beater. Because this is not something you can just take to somebody else and you can't call the insurance. When you hit a glancing blow through any kind of trauma in the universe, it is up to you to acknowledge it, to feel it, to even check for the meaning of it. Does it have meaning? Why did it find you? We talk about coincidence and synchronicity, and we say there are no such things as accidents. We must look at these things. We must look at all of these blows. How many of them are about the mass consciousness? How many of them are about me specifically? How many of them are part of a repetitive pattern of behaviors or pattern of experiences in my life? What is going on with these glancing blows that I am absorbing unconsciously and moving on from and taking forward with me into everything else? And can I stop long enough that the physical body absorption of something can catch up with the spiritual body absorption of something? Okay, let's be very clear about this. I am aware that my physical body, in its gross form of all of my own light energy, takes longer. I am aware of that. It takes longer, and because I am a stubborn sod at the best of times, it can take even longer. This may or may not be true for everybody. Some people are emotionally overly sensitive. So their emotional bodies absorb everything first, and by the time it gets to their mind, their consciousness, it might be years later. Some people just wallow in their emotional bodies, and their mental bodies don't even get to absorb things. They can't deal. So those are the people we say who are in denial. But their mental bodies know that they're avoiding something. Now you've heard about people who black out and they are completely unconscious, have no memory whatsoever of anything that happened because it was so traumatic. The spiritual body knows. The physical body knows. But the in-between bodies have made a pact to go silent on it, to hold back the information so you can suffer the effect, the after effect of the trauma in the physical body. So the glancing blow to the head, the broken leg, whatever, you'll have all of those. And the spiritual body will hold its peace. It will hold that information and it will begin the healing. But here, the bodies of awareness, here these bodies will hold that space and keep it in abeyance because it can't cope. It can't absorb. It can't deal with the glancing blow. It's a bigger blow than usual. And some people are too vulnerable, not strong enough to cope. Now we all see examples of this everywhere. One of the things we must be aware of is that you take enough glancing blows without dealing with it, and then you wind up with the last straw that breaks the camel's back. So, we are not built just to survive. We are built to live. And moving out of survival mode into living fully means that usually if you see that glancing blow coming, you duck. But there are some things that are unavoidable. You can't duck everything. You can't deflect it or send it on its way because it's really not intended for you. Some things are intended for you and you have to live them. So rather than you should be standing still, see the blow coming and accept it before it arrives. Acceptance makes it easier to integrate and absorb. And acceptance is the hardest work possible. Very often we see the blow coming and we accept it while denying it, while resisting it, while pushing it away and pretending it didn't really happen. And then we go get on with it anyway. See? These are all the games that we play. But really, a blow is a blow is a blow. You can't run too far from that. And once it's hit you, you can't run away from it at all. It is now a part of who you are. It is a part of your own history or story. And you have to work with it. And you have to work with it with the different bodies because they are all working at a different pace. They're healing in a different way. The same wound will permeate all of the bodies and respond differently to the same wound. So even forgiveness becomes something that we must do consciously from all of those bodies. So my physical body does not miss the bum lifting. It can't. It won't. I'm never going to miss the bum lifting. I might miss the tantrums. I might, but not really. I do miss the cuddles and the walks and all of those things. You know, there are things that you are going to miss. And there I have a whole litany of things that I miss, that I yearn for. And that Pandora cannot replace, although she does a lot of the same things. And that's because those memories are specific to that God dog and are connected in my spiritual body and in my emotional body to that God dog. So the walks in the park are associated with 2-minute noodles that Paddy would be talking to Granny about as we went through the park. You know, the 2-minute noodle doodles. Or sudden moments of what I used to call Paddyisms. one profound statement and I'd be stopped in my tracks and she'd be slinking past as if to say, gotcha. That feeling. Now there's attitude and there's all of these different things that happened simultaneously in the experience, but each of my bodies responded differently. So my 4 bodies are grieving differently. And in the stages, the ages and stages of grief, and that's why we have stages really. We have stages in almost everything for human beings in order to give ourselves time to catch up. So pregnancy has stages. All 9 months are divided into trimesters. So that the physical body is growing and growing and growing and growing and growing, but the rest of you must catch up before you give birth, right? This is what we do. We do things in these stages. And we do exactly the same thing with grief. By the time we get to the acceptance stage, it is as if those 4 bodies have come into harmony with each other. For yourself, you have to check which of the bodies took the blow. That would be my first question. Which body took the blow primarily? Because of course all of them would have felt it. And then which one is still experiencing it? Not just feeling it, but experiencing it the most. And there begins your healing. There begins your allowing. There begins your releasing. And your becoming. And if your brain is anything like mine and it goes hogwash, like, really, what are you talking about? Tell it to shut up and do the work anyway. I'm so amazed that I still have to tell my brain to shut up. I know. Isn't that weird? That I actually still have to tell my brain to shut up. I think for as long as I am here with this body, I'm going to have to restrain my brain. Okay, good. Okay. So Patty says, I must tell all of you that just as I am talking about grief from a physical plane perspective, there is a very similar perspective for her. Because she used to arrive and say things like, I miss you, Granny. And there's no reason for her to miss something that she can be with whenever she thinks of it or chooses. But there is for her as well the same system of memories. The same system of memories. So she too grieves. And her energy bodies also heal at a different pace. In fact, if you talk to all dead people, they'll tell you that the different bodies heal at a different pace. That it takes time for them to come into alignment and operate in harmony with each other. Because all 4 bodies are always going to operate at a slightly different frequency from each other. Remember, they get lighter and lighter and lighter. So the innermost etheric body and the outermost etheric body with the one in the middle are already working at 3 different frequencies. They must harmonize. And then they must harmonize with the 3 sets of 3 other bodies. Get how complicated it is? It takes time. For everybody, it takes time. Okay. So let us meditate.